Finally, we're only a day away or a night's sleep away from the start of the Triple Crown and a Triple Tiara. It is a venue Turffontein Racecourse, and the first leg of those two arduous events is the Guineas, and that will be tomorrow afternoon. It's a 9-race program, and before we get into discussing that 9-race program with our revered panel, let us just remind you of that competition that we have also been talking about leading up to tomorrow. It is officially started tomorrow. It's the first of 4 legs of 100,000 Rand winner-takes-all competition. And at the end of that competition, which will be on the 27th of April with the 4th and final meeting, the top of the leaderboard is your winner, and that is that. Finished and clear, no sharing or no dividing the 100,000 Rand. There will be no dead heat, and if there is a dead heat, there will be some sort of a playoff. Just get on to the 4Racing website, press on the competition icon, and all the terms and conditions in a detail will be highlighted on the website. Well, without any further ado, let's talk about the meeting that will be headlined by the Guineas, and it is welcoming Mr. Daryl Marie, and online will be Darren Burrows shortly to give us their thoughts on what will be an interesting meeting. Not the biggest of fields to get the Triple Crown and Triple Tiara underway, but nonetheless quality at times that does overrule as quantity, as they often say in the classic. Daryl, a very, very good morning to you. It doesn't seem like a year ago we were getting into the Guineas.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cecil. Just want to touch on the fact that we got muffins here today, and I have to thank our makeup lady because my tipping's been so bad I can't afford muffins at this stage. But it's going to turn,
Yes,
and
indeed.
when it turns, we're going to ride that wave.
Yes, so hopefully it is tomorrow.
Let's hope so.
Right.
Opening leg of the bipods, I've put numbers 6 and 7. I don't know the well-being for number 7, the filly, So Seductive. You can see she's only ever contested winners against winners. So she's now in maiden company. She even contested the Grade 2 fillies nursery in her second start, but she's been off for 256 days. She's obviously got the best form to date, well, coming into this race, but we don't know her well-being. Number 6, Precipice. I loved his debut. You know, he finished alongside Midwinter Wind, who's well above average in that start. And in his second start, if you ever look at the times, albeit well beaten, his time was about 5 lengths quicker than a filly called Woman of Fame, who's had 3 starts at the maiden ranks and placed in every one of those starts. So, being gelded, he could certainly make a winning return.
Didn't Woman of Fame threaten to beat Chrome Tourmaline recently at that Turffontein in that last race?
Loomed up very late on the outside, yeah.
All right, let's just first of all welcome Mr. Darren Burrows. Darren, it is our Joburg time now. We've had a bit of Cape Town, and I'm sure there will be big days to come through before they bring the curtain down firmly. But welcome to our preview of the Guineas meeting. I hope you're well, and I hope that, as per normal, you have found us a few pearlers.
Good morning, Cecil. I really like the look of this card. You know, the fields aren't big. It didn't take too much studying. I thought a couple of standouts on the card. But in this race, I thought between Precipice and So Seductive. Now, So Seductive placed in the fillies nursery, a graded race, as a maiden. So she's definitely got ability. She ran off Ripple Effect, White Pearl. She's rested. All depends on how fit she is making a return. Precipice, being gelded, he is looking for ground. I saw last time out, he came under pressure and he stayed on. I think he's looking for a mile, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him win. And I think Bob will chase them home for 3rd position.
All right, so it is between the Mike de Kock and Johan Janssen van Vuren runners. That is 6 and 7 respectively with Bob, who's holding form well. That ran a second penultimate run behind what seems to be a highly regarded Mike de Kock, George Calantha, and then followed it up with a second again, 2 lengths to Green Flash. 6 and 7 will be the obvious numbers in that first leg of the bipod for Daryl, and then it is a banker in that last leg, which will be the Tab Gauteng Guineas Grade 2, where we see the renewal of rivalries between the likes of Sandringham Summit and Purple Pitcher. And the banker in new colours, those of the Turffontein, is number 1, Sandringham Summit. It is a 64 Rand outlay, and that is race number 2 getting underway with that second of 9. Just the one scratching, and that comes about in race 2. That is going to be the 4 major strides. Okay, so we'll be getting in to race number 3, one of the bigger fields on Saturday's card at Turffontein. But before we do get to that third race preview, where we'll be getting a PEA once again from Daryl Marie, just a reminder that PA is one of those bets that you can take in that competition, which would have started in race number 1. You are open to take whatever exotic you normally do prefer. And of course, the win bets, strike on the nose, doubles, or to comes. Every bet that exists accessible on the tote will be part of that competition. Just remember that you be on by 12 o'clock, because that's when the first of our 9 races gets underway. It doesn't mean that you cannot get involved a bit later on, but that is when the competition starts in earnest. Right, let's get to race number 3 and one of our bigger fields on this program on Saturday. As you pointed out, Darren, it's a smallish card as far as the fields are concerned, but you've got 12 runners for race number 3. And what does tickle your fancy? Siberian Steel in the colours of Ian Leviton certainly has been holding form well and must be a contender once again.
Definitely. You got that form line behind Silver Tudor, Siberian Steel and Dreamland only running, what was it, a length and a 3/4 apart. And I think they are the 2 leading lights in the race. They're drawn middle outside, which is in their favour. And Siberian Steel holding his form well, course and distance suited. I think he'll be right there. Dreamland improved last time out with the tongue tie fitted, and he could build on that effort. I think he's above average on his day. Of the rest, I thought a horse like Cityscape. Her first run on the Highveld was a cracking second, and she's only got 52 kilos to shoulder, so she could be right there. And Longsword, I see Richard Fouries in the saddle, but he is drawn 1, and the 1100 looks a bit sharp.
I think Longsword, in fact, Daryl, coming to Longsword, the last time I spoke to Sean, he was actually disappointed in the run prior to that other run behind it, Just Nuisance. He thought Longsword is much, much better than that 9 lengths to Prince of Green. And unfortunately, didn't improve on that run when finishing just under 28 lengths behind. Longsword in the colours of Mr. Bernard Cantor. Just before we get into your thoughts, now Daryl has highlighted Darren has highlighted his principles. What about Artikuna? Were you impressed with that return after a lengthy rest for the Crawford stable?
Cecil, I don't know if you recall her prior to the race itself. She was very stubborn going down to the start. She raced wide into the first bend. There's no doubt she covered more ground than anything else. She came under pressure. Cabello asked her to run, but at the finish, she was going away from them. There's one thing for certain. She didn't beat much at all. But I think she's better than a maiden winner or just a maiden winner. She's capable of improving from that run. She was in need of it. In her penultimate start, she ran 2 3/4 lengths behind Just Be Lacquer. In that race was Mia Mu, who came out and ran 3rd in the Mother Russia.
Today,
yes.
Well. Yeah.
And look at her form also beyond Racecourse, Blue Holly. They've won several races since then. So I'm not ignoring her chances, although she needs to step it up because she didn't beat a strong field whatsoever.
They did say in the post-race interviews just after that race that she is a bit of a handful as well at home. So I think they will hopefully eventually get on top of that situation. But in your PAs, Siberian still form part of your selections?
Absolutely. He's not over-racing in his races now. He's settling and finishing them off, so I like his chances. Dreamland, we expected the improvement last time out. He did just that. He has to be a factor on form. He's right alongside Siberian Steel. Then I put in the filly Articuno, and then number 9, Joker Man. Now, I wasn't a fan of his form prior to his rest, but his 2 runs since then have been very, very good. Last time out, he was never in doubt. Penultimate start he needed, and he was closing in the latter stages. He's having his peak run. He's lightly raced, Cecil. Who says he's not much better than an 80? And he's drawn on the right side. So wide for me, 1, 2, 7, and 9.
1, 2, 7, and 9. Let's just confirm those are numbers to that place accumulated. It will be again, I think, a very decent outlay of 96 Rand. Of course, percentages could be the way to go. 50%. You're suddenly down to 48 Rand. What we do need to confirm is that race number 3, a merit rated 80 handicap, is over the 1160 and is off at 10 past the hour of 1. That'll be the third of our 9 races as we slowly edge to the 2 main races, which will be races 7 and 8 on the card. Races 6 and 7 rather. We're now getting into race number 4. This will be a Wilgerbosdrift Pinnacle Stakes. It's over the 2,400 meters. And I think the word prep will be mentioned, I'm sure, a couple of times before we round off our look at race number 4, because you've got a few that I'm sure have got bigger fish to fry as our season does pick up a momentum. And of course, yesterday, talking to Muzi in an interview after his win in the last race, he did say, guys, please don't ignore Breeze Over. That could be a bit of value for you. Breeze Over, 8-1 currently, or at least that was the price last night, Mr. Burrows. It is an interesting race, and that word prep, I think, it comes to mind. So one has to tread carefully when tackling this Pinnacle Stakes.
Well, Zeus looks an absolute penalty kick in this lineup. I mean, if you look at Gavin Larena, how well he just settles him towards the back end of the field, and he lets him build up his stride. And he's won, 9 from 12 on Zeus. I mean, that's faultless. So he's going to take a power of beating. This is more his game, the 2,400 meters. And he does hold good counsel. His nearest rival, who I thought was the only danger to him, who is 2 kilos better off on that last run. So I think it's going to be Zeus, a runaway winner, and good counsel to chase him home for second.
And of course, that form line has been franked recently. Just franked once again. We had litigation come through, and when the Dr. Richard Maponya had come out of that form line behind Zeus. So it does look quite a useful form line indeed. So that'll be 2 winners coming through from that, from a very, very few bunch of runners sent out of that form line.
Yeah, I don't know if litigation stays. His form over a mile is very, very good, Cecil. Yeah, I don't make it as clear-cut as Darren. I make the danger East Coast. Now, East Coast was in need of his later start. He was returning from a gelding. Go back to the Betway Summer Cup run, Cecil. He was beaten 6 3/4 of a length by a royal victory, but he was 4 1/4 behind Zeus. And he's now 6 kilograms better off with Zeus. And he might have improved with the gelding. So on paper, he certainly has a chance of reversing the form. In saying that, Zeus is in cracking form. And East Coast hasn't won in quite some time. But on paper alone, East Coast is weighted to run right alongside Zeus. Now, Zeus likes the pace honest, and you can see there's 2 stable companions in the race. One of them, I'm sure, is going to ensure a decent gallop, and Gavin can just settle him and do his best work late. But I think East Coast is well enough weighted here to give the favourite a run for his money.
Yeah, and as you say, it does seem to still have a little bit of a zest for racing, and that run behind Tegan's Shack maybe was a good come on and a good prep for this race.
Absolutely. You can see he was dropped in towards the back of the field and stayed on.
All right.
You know, he's receiving 6 kilograms. And on his day, East Coast isn't that bad. So 1 3 to fight it out.
1 3 to fight it out. And as you say, Gavin, he's riding like a man possessed. Let's have a look at that pick 6 and let's see how many bankers we do have here. We've got the 1, and that comes about in our very second leg. So it is Zeus and Good Counsel, I think. Is that sure? Of course, it is Mr. Burrows' selections. It's his banker in leg number 2. That is the 4 Lady Fallon. And thereafter, it is quite an expensive one, 127 by 12. And then it's a field, and then virtually the field add to the back as well, 1,560 Rand again. Once you start breaking it down into percentages and you get the right results in the latter races, I think it would be a very good investment indeed. Race number 4, the first leg of the pick 6, gets underway at 13:45 with the Pinnacle Stakes over the 2,400 meters. Well, shortly we'll be getting a win suggestion from our revered tipster in Cape Town, Mr. Devin Burrows, as far as Darren Burrows, my apologies, for race number 5. But that's just another of those bets that you can utilize. And if you do find the value, you could easily find yourself at the top of the leaderboard after leg number 1 of a 4-legged 100,000 Rand winner-takes-all competition, proudly brought to you by TAB. Daryl, the more I look at this card, I was one of those when printing out the computer form on a Wednesday. I sort of looked and thought maybe there's something wrong with the printer. Half the fields are not printed out yet. But the more I look at it, yes, I think it's a good build-up, and I'm sure as we get into the Classic and then the Champions Day, the field quantity and quality will just continue to bulging, and we should be in for a great cracking 3 months. Race 5 is another case in point. You've got Sukhumvit. We don't know what sort of post-maiden run we'll get. Lady Fallon, I'm sure we're going to hear more about that. And LMB, once highly regarded. Where are your loyalties here?
Cecil, just looking at this field, the majority of them have had their chances and are fairly exposed. Now, there's 2 fillies that are more lightly raced and could be ahead of their current rating, namely number 4, Lady Fallon, and number 7, Sukhumvit. Now, Lady Fallon, I don't think the going really suited her last time out, over 1400. She was staying on, running on nicely, but she didn't show that finishing burst she's capable of. I'm putting it down to the going and also the 1400. I think the mile on a firmer track will certainly be more to her liking. In saying that, I don't see much pace over here, and that's a major concern for her because she's got one style and that's been switched off towards the back of the field and then doing her best work late. And I don't see the pace really being breakneck over here, so she's gonna really have to pick it up in the straight. She has to give a filly like Sukhumvit 5 kilograms. Now, here's a daughter by Silvana, only having her 3rd start, and she's done absolutely nothing wrong to date. She could be so many pounds better than her current rating. I want to touch on one thing before wrapping it up, yes. Cecil. Her time in her latest start when she won, now listen to this, she would have beaten Beating Wings by half a length on the day. Her time was half a length quicker. But are you impressed with that?
I am very impressed.
Okay, let me tell you this. She carried 3.5 kilograms more than Beating Wings on that day.
Yes.
And her time was quicker, carrying 3.5 kilograms more. So for that reason, I'm going 7 from 4.
7 from 4. All right, let us now talk to Mr. Darren Burrows. Now, Mr. Darren Burrows, 7 from 4 for Daryl, and after the latest victory for Beating Wings, which made it 3 on the bounce and 3 from 4 outings. I do recall when they won that maiden, the connections of Sukhumvit in the form of Alec Laird actually said to me as the horses were going down, I went to him for a comment to share with the viewers, and he said to me quite affirmatively, the horse can run, and I was trackside to see Sukhumvit closing in rather, hand over fist, and the stats Daryl has just given us just give us lots to be excited about the Nick Johnson runner. But you've got your thoughts on the race, and we always take them on board with respect. Are you there, Darren?
Yes, sorry. I just muted for a second there. But Sukhumvit, you've got to take her seriously. She's a nice filly. Last time out, she slightly over-raced over the 1400, but she did prove, I mean, she was pushed out hard to the line, and she only beat that horse, Kissing Machine, by 3 lengths, who came out to get beat in quite a weak maiden. So I don't know how impressive that win actually was. And I don't really follow times because some races are slow run, other ones are fast run. So I think Lady Fallon is a good thing in this lineup. 2 runs back, I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought that was a Christmas present for all my guys that followed me, because I thought when she steps up to a mile, she's an absolute penalty kick. And they priced up My Lady Soul Favourite and Lady Fallon at 7-2. And then we climbed into Lady Fallon. She started 18-10 race time, and she absolutely pulverized the field hands and heels by 3 lengths. And I think she'll just about do the same, even giving Sukhumvit 5 kilos.
So I take it that this is where your loyalties lie, and there's confirmation. Darren Burrows pretty confident in his assessment of Lady Fallon and the progress being made. And that will be race number 5, number 4. Just as we round off, just worth saying, Alabama Anna ended up being a chance ride for Kabela Matsinyane, and before the actual race, having won earlier on, I did ask him about his chances on Alabama, and he said we were very lucky to beat a very unlucky Lady Fallon. So that could be another win. And then that last run, you remember before the weekend, Lucky had taken it easy on his horses, and now they seem to have come back to form. So I think, Lady Fallon, Sukhumvit, what a contest to look forward to. Only the 7 runners, but the 2 runners there, and maybe others may just come through to surprise. It is also the first leg of the first jackpots. Okay, so another chance to find an option to utilize as your entry into that competition. You've got Jackpot 2 starting, and it is what a better place to start than the 2024 Gauteng Fillies Guineas Grade 2, once again proudly sponsored by Wilgerbosdrift, and that is a part of that 100,000 Rand winner takes all, which will be decided at the end of racing on the 27th of April. All meetings are Gauteng meetings, and it is the Guineas Classic, the Derby, and of course that last meeting on the 27th of April. Right, we've touched on the competition. As far as the first leg of the second jackpot, Daryl, give me another. Do you go without really sort of even considering anything else with the bank in the form of give me another, or do you really examine the field? I think we were victims of that mob psychology with the seed again. Some of us didn't even think or consider anything else.
Yeah, I don't know, Cecil. This filly is really on the upgrade in a serious manner. I mean, she beat 2 moderate fields in her first 2 starts, and then in the Fillies Mile, the Betway Fillies Mile, she came from stone last to make them look very average, because she quickened up beautifully up the inside. And then last time out, she showed that she's versatile in that she could race handier too, and she was up on the pace, and Feather Boa just couldn't match her in the closing stages. She could be something really, really special, and I'd love to see her remain unbeaten. The only thing she needs to do is get some luck in running from a tricky draw and be at her best on the day, and we can all see her making it 5 from 5. So at the ratings, she's the filly to beat. I've got respect for Egyptian Mao. Last time out, just put a line through that. You can see that wasn't her run. Something was amiss. In her penultimate start, the stable said she would be in need of that outing. And I thought she won with a lot in hand on that occasion. At her best, she could trouble the favourite. But I am obviously in Gimme Another's camp. And I'm hoping she remains unbeaten. So 1 from 3 from me.
1 from 3. Now, Mr. Burrows, could we possibly draw a line through that last run from Champagne Cocktail? Because word has it that there is a lot of ability, and the apple didn't fall too far from the tree when you consider the sibling Sparkling Water, who just won the July just under 2 years ago. Where are your loyalties in race number 6, sir? Darren?
Yes, if Give Me Another was drawn in the top 5, I would make her an absolute good thing. I'm only concerned about the 11 draw, as she's got to come across. I mean, she can't travel 3 deep around the bend. You don't want to see that at Turffontein, especially on the standside track. So I think the only option is maybe to slot her towards the back end of the field. Hopefully there's a decent speed on and she can run them down in the straight, because she's got great acceleration and a great cruising speed. So it all depends. If she can get midfield one off the fence, then I think she's going to take a power of beating. So it all depends on the start, and we'll know where we stand after the first 200 meters of the race. Give Me Another, my outright first choice, even though she's drawn wide. I would include Silver Sanctuary. She did show good improvement last time out in the Fillies Guineas. She looked a winner at the 100-meter mark, and she was just outrun by a better horse on the day. White Pearl, Egyptian Mao got chances, but Champagne Cocktail, you can't ignore this filly. She's very good, and they hold her in high regard. I think classic Oaks type filly, I think we'll see the best of her, but I wouldn't ignore her chances.
Okay, so it is give me another to make it 5 from 5, and that is a confident win selection from Darren Barrows in race number 6. Now we'll be moving to the last part of the card, and we started off the last 3 races with the male counterparts in principle taking part in the Guineas. That's coming up next. Well, this morning has certainly been an exercise in exorcism for me. The more we discuss with our learned friends this card, it is actually a very exciting afternoon that lies ahead of us at Turffontein Racecourse, with that first of our 9 races off at 12 midday. Now, race number 7, and that will be the second and final Group 2 on leg 1 of the Triple Crown. It is the male Guineas, and what a field we have. Now, as far as race number 7, it'll be the start of the last pick 3, and again, you can utilize a pick 3 as long as that turnover is 100 Rand to be part of that 100,000 Rand competition. There is a lot of money to be had. There is no dead eats. There is no joint winners. It is going to be decided there will be an outright winner. If there is no outright winner, then there is going to be prize money first, second, and third, but nowhere near that 100,000 Rand. All right, let's get to race number 7, and wow. The Fillies Guineas is something to really salivate about. Now, what about the male counterparts? It is the Sandringham Summit, debuting in the colors of the Breeders' Turffontein stud. This is a 3-time winner from the 7 outings, and I think one of the most memorable 2-year-old performances in recent times was on July Day, when Calvin Habib, from a very impossible position, managed to get Sandringham Summit to a victory, and it seems there was a lot more in the tank, as we saw subsequently. Mr. Marie, do you remember that run?
Absolutely.
Wow, what a run.
Yeah, it's something special. That effort was Cecil. I'm going back to his Betway Graham Beck Stakes run when himself and main defender, excuse me, so locked horns about 600 meters out, and they dominated. And I thought that was an unbelievable effort returning from a layoff. We remember that main defender had a run going into that race, so I expected him to just about win his next start, and he disappointed. But Cecil, he certainly had excuses. Going into the first bend, things went awry for him, and he was caught on the back foot. Turning into the straight, I thought he had his work cut out and he was going to run closer to last. And then he took off in the latter stages. And one has to believe that that wasn't him, because if you go back to the Graham Beck, he gave Give Me Another Chance 3 kilograms and a proper beating of about 3 lengths. And then in the Dingons, Give Me Another Chance beat him at level weights, 3 kilograms worse off. So I'm just putting a line through his Dingons run. If you go to the ratings of the race, he's Wally Nobier. I think he's 3.5 kilograms best in. He's the best horse in the race, and I think he is going to get it right with Gavin Lorena in the irons for the 3rd time. He's 0 from 2. He'll be 1 from 3.
Okay, that is confidence, if there was ever confidence ever needed. Now, Mr. Burrows, we last saw Purple Pitcher in that form line that is alluded to, coming through to win the Dingans for Mr. Pue and Robin Klaassen. We haven't seen a Purple Pitcher on the track anymore, but would there have been a run needed, or they feel that they have done sufficiently at home for their horse to come back and possibly put up another winning performance?
Well, he's a very smart horse. I mean, it has to be said. He's turned the corner with the Klaassen stable, 5 wins in a row, if I'm not mistaken. And he beat Give Me Another Chance, a neck in the Dingons. But if you saw where Sandringham Summit was positioned, I mean, he lost his race. At the 800, you knew your fate. He was, 9, 10, 11 lengths off them. And he absolutely took off down the outside when he finally got his stride together to get beaten only 2 lengths. Now, from a 3 draw, I'm hoping that he goes and gets into a midfield position. That'll be fine. And if there's a decent speed on, he'll be slipstreaming them and ready to pounce. Now, William Ironarm, I can't confirm this from the stable, but the word is that he works with main defender and he goes smoothly alongside him. So he's returning after a long break. They've backed him from 7-1 into 33-10, and they're obviously expecting a big run. So you can't ignore William Iron Arm if you're playing wider in your pick sixes, because we don't know how good he is. But I'm all in the camp of Sandringham Summit to win.
Okay, so it is unanimous that Sandringham Summit to get back to winning ways. In former jockey, former champion jockey Gavin Arena is in the saddle once again, and it is in the colours of the Turffontein now. They bred the horse, but they now own the 3-year-old son of Give Me the Green Light. That is a roundup of the preview to the Guineas. We still have a couple more races to look ahead to. Race number 8 is another Pinnacle Stakes on the card. Okay, for the last leg of the first jackpot, we are back in a Pinnacle Stakes. And again, you have a few runners that will be looking further down the road as far as the future season is concerned. It is a Wilgerbosdrift Pinnacle Stakes. Is over the 1,400 meters, and it is promising to be a nice climax to that first jackpot. No real outstanding favorite. You've got Cousin Casey and the 9 Unzen, that is numbers 2 and 9, as your 9 to 2 tepid favorites. Mr. Burrows, how do you see this particular race? I see Dave the King. It will be coming back to the races newly gelded, and Mr. Stratham retains the ride after that last run before gelding.
This is an interesting race, but I am excited to see the return of Cousin Casey over this trip, because I think he's best over 1,1600 meters. And they tried him in the Summer Cup after a second run after a lengthy break. He didn't have things go his way, but I think it was a bit too far. Returning to this trip with Richard Fourie and a good draw, I can see Cousin Casey getting his head in front. There are a lot of hard knockers. Puerto Manzano, Dave the King, Bingwa, MK's Pride, Safe Passage. They're all good horses. They obviously got bigger things to focus on in the season, but it wouldn't surprise me to see one of them flash up. Of the lightweights, Unzen has to be a runner with 52 kilos. He receives 10 kilos from the top weights, and he's in form. And then Savannah Storm, I wouldn't write off completely.
Well, I know if Nico is calling tomorrow, certainly Savannah Storm suddenly seems to grow an extra leg whenever hearing those tones of Mr. Kritsiotis in the commentary box. I think in recent times, most of this 7-year-old's victories have come with Nico in the commentary box, and that is Savannah Storm. Now, as far as race number 8, I do recall the post-race interviews as far as Cousin Casey was concerned after the Summer Cup. The trainer didn't mince his words. He was not impressed at all with the performance, both in the saddle and basically the outcome of the Summer Cup. I think you recall that as well. You're a man of interviews.
I think the writing was on the wall after 100 meters into that race, because he was tugging terribly, and Grant just couldn't hold him. So he was going to compound, and he did just that. I've also always been in the camp of him being a really good 1,400 miler horse. So I'm keen to see him come back in trip. But in saying that, he's got the class, and he just needs to settle in his races, and he can get the 10 furlongs. He's got a lot of weight to give away. There's going to be plenty meat on the bone, because this is a prep going into the season. But he's got the class. Unzen, this horse got a very high rating early in his career, and many thought that he wasn't capable, but he's proved to be very, very decent. And what I like about him now is he's moving much better in his races, especially down to the starts. He used to go down choppy, and in his last 2 starts, he's actually throwing his legs out and moving fluently. So I think Mr. Sage has got to the bottom of things with him. Neat draw, course and distance suited, no weight, a live wire. If you're playing trifectas and quartets, this is a little bit of a loony selection, but if you just have a look at the best weighted column, Tulip Tree with Phyllis Mtoli carrying 50 kilograms from a neat draw could upset the apple cart over here. I know it's over a distance sharp of her best, but a few runs back, over 1,200, she got touched off, and she's well in over here. If she's close to the pace turning for home, I wouldn't be surprised to see her feature. But tricky race. I went all of numbers 2, 9, and 11.
2, 9, and 11 as we look at your double selection for the last double, which will be races 8 and 9. MK's Pride, do you think they're still live yet? Another stable change here for that 6-year-old Entire out of Willa Magic, out of the Maya Main of Mare Ikamasu. Runs well fresh, if memory serves right.
He's back with the Peters.
Yeah.
Let's see how he goes. Got a little bit off the boil, and he's getting long in the tooth. We know on his day he's more than capable.
Okay, so that is 2, 9, 11, and then there's a banker which in fact I should have actually preempted, because I did hear of this horse from our double tipster, and that was going back to early part of the week. That would be Courageous from the Candice Dawson stable. 2, 9, 11 by the 4 Take It Times, and again this is another chance to be part of that competition. Well, at this juncture, talking about competitions, we do sincerely thank our proud sponsors, Betway, for giving us this opportunity to discuss what is in fact looking more and more a very attractive start to the champion season here on the Highveld. It is the start of the Triple Crown and a Triple Tiara. If you want to be there for all the action, you have to be there at 12 midday. That's when race 1 gets underway.